Hello everyone, welcome to EduHunt video lecture series, and today we are going to start a new concept, that is food resources and nutrition in various organisms including autotrophs and heterotrophs. And we know that food is essential for life. For a human being, three major and three main essentials are important. One is food, shelter, cloth. Food, cloth, shelter. These three are the prime requirements for a human being. The first requirement, that is food, is basic requirement for any living organism, isn't it? మనకి మాత్రమే ఫుడ్, క్లోత్, షెల్టర్ కావాలి. ఫర్ అదర్ ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ ఫుడ్ ఈజ్ వెరీ అండ్ ఫుడ్ ఈజ్ ద మెయిన్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్. అండ్ సెకండ్ కమ్స్ షెల్టర్. సో based on nutrition we can divide the whole living organism domain into two major categories. One is autotrophs and the second is heterotrophs. In autotrophs, all the photosynthetic organisms are there. Photosynthetic organisms are nothing but they are the primary producers of the ecosystem. What is meant by primary producers? Primary producers are nothing but they are not depend on any other organism for their energy source or for their food, but they depend on solar radiation, that is sunlight, for their food or energy source for preparation of their food. And what that process called? That is called photosynthesis. In photosynthetic process, the autotrophic organisms, especially plants, green plants, I am stressing green plants because there are non-green plants. That will be discussed later. The green plants, they trap the solar radiation or the sunlight or solar energy and convert the solar energy into a chemical form of energy. This is known as photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means preparation. What is prepared in presence of light? That is food. So food is the final product of photosynthesis. Ultimately, the food that is prepared in photosynthesis is utilized by the organism for various metabolic activities. The food prepared will give rise to energy. The energy is required to do any sort of work for maintenance of the body, for growth, development, reproduction, for all these things, for all these works and for all these changes. Plants, even animals also require energy. And let's come to the point, that is photosynthesis. The green plants synthesize food material using 4 different factors. What are the factors that are essential for photosynthesis? Factors of photosynthesis. photosynthetic factors. One is sunlight, second CO2, third water, and fourth chlorophyll. And the first three factors are called external factors because plants are getting these factors from external environment, whereas chlorophyll is an internal factor because it is present in the plant itself. And utilizing all these factors, all these requirements, plants synthesize food material, that is glucose. Glucose is synthesized from using all these requirements, all these factors. And mechanism, let's see how photosynthesis takes place. Mechanism includes combining smaller molecules into a larger one. Combining or joining of smaller molecules. Here CO2 is a smaller one, water is a smaller molecule. Both these smaller molecules join together to form a larger one, that is glucose. And oxygen is a byproduct. Oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthesis. Photosynthetic byproduct is oxygen, whereas end product is glucose. What are the major materials that are participating in the mechanism? That is CO2, H2O. Water and CO2 molecules, they combine. For combination or for joining, they require energy, and the energy is supplied by the let's see the photosynthetic reaction, that is 6CO2 plus H2O gives rise to 6H2 gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2. I am putting an upward arrow because it is a gas, the byproduct that is released into the atmosphere. And here it happens in presence of sunlight and takes place in chloroplast, and chloroplast consists of pigment called chlorophyll. That is why we can say that CO2 and H2O together they join and form C6H12O6, that is glucose, that is the end product of photosynthesis. Oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthesis, and they require sunlight for energy. To trap this energy, where the energy gets trapped, that is in the chlorophyll molecule itself present in organelle, cell organelle known as chloroplast. Anyway, the steps of photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, there are two major steps. One is light reaction and the second one is dark reaction. Light reaction is nothing but trapping the light energy, and dark reaction is converting the CO2 into glucose. These are the two different reactions that occur, that take place in the photosynthesis. One is chlorophyll traps the sunlight, called light reaction. This is called light reaction. The name itself is indicating that traps light energy, solar energy. Where it gets trapped? In the chlorophyll molecule. Where the chlorophyll molecule present? In the chloroplast. Chloroplast is the cell organelle, whereas chlorophyll is the pigment, that is colored product, colored structure, colored molecule. Don't get confused between chloroplast and chlorophyll. Chloroplast is the cell organelle. We have millions of cells. Like that, plants also possess millions of cells. The cells have nucleus, chloroplast, mitochondria, Golgi complex, like that. It has so many cell organelles. One of the cell organelles is plastid or chloroplast. In that chloroplast, there are different structures like stroma, grana. In the grana, there are some stack-like structures called thylakoids, and these thylakoids possess pigments called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, carotenoid pigments are present. These chlorophyll pigments, they offer green color to the leaf or wherever they are present. Wherever the pigment is present, the structure looks green in color. Chlorophyll is the green colored substance. Don't forget that chlorophyll is the green colored pigment. Again, CO2 is required, water also required. First step is trapping sunlight by the chlorophyll, and next is combining CO2 with water, forming a raw material which act as raw materials, and by joining these raw materials we'll get glucose. And now the chlorophyll convert the raw material into carbohydrates, that is glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen is generated as a byproduct in this process, as I mentioned. And requirements of photosynthesis. Green plants need to have these factors for synthesis of food material. One is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, they get carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They get from atmosphere. That is, we have in our atmosphere, we have 0.03% of CO2 is there, and this CO2 will be utilized by the plants. That is why we say that plants, green plants are very essential for controlling pollution, air pollution, because these automobiles in the form of CO2, they release the gases, and these gases will be trapped, especially CO2. It is utilized during photosynthesis and release oxygen. They take up the poisonous gas or the gas which is not essential will be taken up by the plant, and they purify it into oxygen. That is why growing plants is very essential to control pollution. And plants take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Through which organs are involved, which structures are involved in absorption of this CO2 is stomata. Stomata are the structures which are present on leaves, leaf surface. Leaf surface is provided with some number of stomata. These are tiny pore-like structures, and they help in absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That is, exchange of gases occur through these stomata. Stomata are, they look like these bean-like structures. We'll discuss later in detail. And then these are present in leaves especially, and green parts, aerial parts. The stomata are present in aerial parts, especially they are more in number in green leaves. And guard cells are present around. These are the guard cells. This is the stoma, pore, and pore is surrounded by two cells known as guard cells. Okay. because of the changes that occur in these guard cells, they guide the opening and closing of the stomata. Next is chlorophyll. As I said, it is a green color pigment, chlorophyll molecule that is present in chloroplast, which is essential for trapping the sunlight. It is green pigment present in the leaf. The green color of leaves is due to presence of chlorophyll only. And there are chlorophylls, like chlorophyll A is there, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B and chlorophyll C, D, E, like that. There are several chlorophyll structures are there, basic with minute differences. And these chlorophyll molecules or pigments are present in, as I mentioned, chloroplast. Chloroplast is a cell organelle. And then, in addition to chlorophyll, what is required? Sunlight. Sunlight from the solar radiation. Only in sunlight, not all the radiation is important. Only the visible radiation, in the visible range also. Visible range is from violet to red. In these 7 colors, if we see the 7 colors, if we pass the white light through the spectrum, it will split up into 7 different colors, which are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. All these colors have different wavelengths, and for photosynthesis, which colors are in which colored light, in which wavelength light the photosynthesis takes place, is the answer is first blue, then red. And which is not, in which color photosynthesis does not occur, that is green. You may be surprised by listening to this, because green color, as it is appearing, the leaf is appearing green in color because it is reflecting the color. If it is not utilized, it is not going into the cell, in fact it is reflected by the leaves. That is why it is not going into the cell. Without, how can we say that it is not going, but it is not essential. It is in the leaf, green color is reflected out. That is why it is in the green light, photosynthesis never take place. Photosynthesis ki kavalsina colors blue and red. First blue, highest rate of photosynthesis occurs in blue light, then red light, and not in green, because green is reflected by the leaves. If it is not entering, how can we say that it is utilized? How can we say that it is essential? That is why we can say green color, in green color photosynthesis does not take place. Then water and minerals. Roots absorb water and minerals from the soil through the root hairs, and it will get transported into the site of photosynthesis, that is leaves, through xylem. And site of photosynthesis, that is leaf, and in leaf chloroplast is the actual site of photosynthesis. Yes, chlorophyll is the molecule in which photosynthesis occurs. As I mentioned, chloroplast is the cell organelle. In the chloroplast there is grana, stack-like structures. I will show the structure of chloroplast. Yes, in chloroplast there is a structure called grana. In grana, stack of thylakoids are there. The thylakoid membrane consists of the pigments known as chlorophyll. These chlorophyll molecules are the actual site of photosynthesis. What is the importance of photosynthesis? It is the primary source of food production for all the living organisms, not only for plants, because plants act as producers. They act as source of food for herbivores. Even herbivores act as food for carnivores. That is why plants are the primary source of food for all organisms. It maintains balance between oxygen, CO2 and O2 in the atmosphere. Importance of photosynthesis is, it is the primary source of food for all organisms, and also to maintain oxygen and CO2 balance in the atmosphere. This is regarding the nutrition in green plants, that is photosynthesis in brief. In photosynthesis there are two different stages or steps. One is the light reaction and other is the dark reaction. In light reaction, light gets trapped by the chlorophyll molecules, and then in dark reaction the chlorophyll molecules energy that is trapped by the chlorophyll molecules, they utilized in the joining of CO2 and H2O to produce glucose or carbohydrates, to synthesize carbohydrate. That happens in the dark reaction. So we can say there are two stages. One is the light utilizing stage, light absorption stage, and light utilization phase. In light absorption phase, light is taken up, and in utilization phase, the energy trapped in the form of light is given to the CO2 and water molecule to form a big molecule, that is glucose. That occurs in stroma. Dark reaction takes place in stroma, whereas light reactions takes place in thylakoids or grana. Anyway, this is about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis requires four factors. One is the sunlight, second is the water, third CO2, fourth chlorophyll. And water, sunlight, CO2 are considered as the external factors, whereas chlorophyll is considered as an internal factor because it is present inside the plant only. This is regarding the photosynthesis mechanism in brief. Importance of photosynthesis, we have discussed that photosynthesis is the major mechanism, major process through which plants prepare food, they obtain energy and prepare food, and this food, not only for plants, it acts as food source for all living organisms. And the second one is to balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Photosynthesis is the major process in the atmosphere. That is for today's session, and I hope you all understood well about photosynthesis. And in the next session, I'll show the chloroplast, structure of chloroplast, and then I'll proceed to the next concept, that is how the non-green plants take food, how they get nutrition. Non-green plants are also there in nature, and how they get food from the nature. That is very interesting. I'll explain you in the next session. Goodbye.